Will the comic convention floor be forever changed by AI art? Greetings everyone, welcome to the underground lair where we bring our creations to life. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. I'm a professional illustrator, designer, and mad creator, and I have been doing that for quite a while. I've been making my living as a creative for longer than some of the members of my audience have even been around, and I've seen a lot of things that have changed the industry, but I think AI generated art it might be the biggest thing that I've ever seen that I think is really going to, you say revolutionize, that tends to have pretty positive connotations. And I think there are a lot of positive things that will come out of AI art, but there's a lot of negative things too. And I do want to talk about one of those positive things today. And there's a lot to discuss, and I'm gonna hopefully try to keep this one brief. I went through a whole kind of deep dive about my initial thoughts before on my last video that I posted, and also I did a discussion with some friends of mine on the Artcasters show that I do, and that was like an hour and a half conversation about AI art. But there's still so much to talk about as we dive more into this and we learn more about AI art. But today I want to talk specifically about how AI art, I think, is going to affect comic conventions. And, it's going to affect a lot of different areas, some for the better, some for the worse. But I'm a comic book artist, and I've done comic book conventions for a while, and I always struggle with that. And first off, before I get into this, a lot of people probably aren't going to agree with what I'm saying or maybe take offense to that. But this is all just my opinion, where I'm coming from, because a lot of it has to do with fan art. And, I know there are a lot of people out there that do fan art, and that a lot of people make a good living off of fan art. And that's pretty much what you see when you go to a comic convention. When I was doing comic conventions, I kind of strayed away from fan art. I was trying to basically introduce a new crowd to my own original ideas that weren't based on an existing IP and everything. And it was a struggle, because I think when people go to comic conventions, that's what they're there to see. And I think AI art is going to kind of disrupt that landscape of what comic conventions are. Maybe for the better, depending on what angle you come from it at. So like I said, I've done a lot of comic conventions, and I've always made a profit at them, but I noticed there was this I was getting diminishing returns. Each comic convention, I'd make a little less, and I just noticed, even from the beginning, I noticed this, but just definitely more people, when people go to a comic convention, they're looking for things that they're not looking to discover new things necessarily. In some ways they are, but they're looking to discover new things based on things they already know and appreciate and love. And that's cool too, because I'm a fan of things, just like everyone else. And I'd like to see new interpretations of things that I love as well. But I'm also someone who likes to discover new things that I haven't seen before. And I think down in their core, most people, when they see something like, oh, this is totally original. But I don't know that they're necessarily looking to seek that out at a comic convention. So that's where I sort of struggled. And there's different levels of fan art. There's things that are very, innovative, that just take different, existing IP and really put a unique spin on it. But I think the majority of it a lot of it looks the same, and it's just kind of become rote. And I think for a lot of artists, it's just been an easy way to kind of cash in. You don't have to pay for millions of dollars of marketing that these other companies have already put into their IP. You can just kind of take it and sell it. And yes, there's a lot of legal issues, and there's a lot of legal issues that we have yet to work out with AI art. So I don't want to dive too much into that, but just to say that no matter what your opinion is, yes, you can get away with doing fan art, and usually the IP holders, they kind of turn a blind eye. And yes, there is some benefit to having fan art out there, because it brings more attention to the brand. So I understand all that, but at the core, fan art it's not legal, and you can put whatever spin on it you can, but it is not legal. Like I said, you can get away with it, and you can make a pretty good living doing fan art, or at least you can. But that's kind of what I'm getting at with AI art coming on the scene. I think you're going to have a harder time with doing things like fan art and making a profit off of it, at least as somebody who draws their own stuff. And I've heard all different arguments, and I think the fan artist is going to have the biggest problem with AI art, because I've already seen their certain fan artists' attitude to when people came on. There was a time where splatter art became a thing, and it was kind of this thing where they took existing, sometimes even photographs or whatever, and they manipulated with Photoshop filters and things like that really quickly, and just added this Photoshop filter, and then they're selling prints. And a lot of fan artists are like, well, I take a lot of time drawing these things and everything, and people are just using some simple Photoshop features and cranking out this artwork. Well, that's gone to a whole different level now with AI art, because you're going to find a lot of people who may not necessarily have the drawing ability now have the ability to create fan art. And why I'm specifically mentioning fan art is because fan art by its very nature is very derivative. It's based on something that already exists. And that's what AI art is really good. These AI art generators are really good at, is taking things that already exist and kind of pulling them apart and mashing them up, and whatever the process is, and taking all the pixels apart, putting them back together, whatever it does. I don't know, it's kind of weird magic to me, but it's a thing, and it works, and it creates these pretty incredible results that you don't necessarily have to be able to draw. So I think you're gonna have a lot of people who may not be able to necessarily draw, who now have this, who've wanted to do conventions forever but haven't learned to draw, or just haven't put in the time, or whatever. They are now going to be able to produce all this artwork, sell prints. So you're going to get a flood of people coming in with AI art, selling fan art and everything. And at first, I think it's not going to be distinguishable from the other people that are taking the time to draw everything. And like I said, fan artists usually they're not too keen on people using programs and things like that to generate artwork, because they feel the fact that they've drawn this thing, that it makes it theirs. And in some ways I can understand that, but they're still taking something that they don't own. So it's, to me, as somebody who doesn't do a lot of fan art, now I will do the occasional commissions. I don't typically do a lot of commissions because profit-wise, you create one thing and that's the end of it. You can't really sell that again. But I kind of just do it as a way, especially when I do like a store signing or something. I'll do sketch covers and things like that, and those are usually always fan art, because that's what people want. That's what people, people usually don't come to me and say, oh, draw a character, an original character that you like. That just usually doesn't happen. But I do these just because I like to go to my local comic book store, do signings, promote my books, and do sketch covers, all that kind of stuff. But I don't like make prints and things of popular characters and sell them. It's just not my thing. Better for worse, whatever your opinion on it. For me, I love, like I said, I love properties and entertainment. There's a lot of things I'm a fan of, but I'm just not one of those people. I'd rather create something, from my own imagination, that doesn't exist in any other kind of world. And because of this, I've struggled a bit at conventions with connecting with an audience, because people look at this and it's like, what is this? I don't get it. I haven't seen this on TV. What is this something? What is this? I don't get it. And a lot of times it's just, and every once in a while you get the perfect person that, oh, this is something I haven't seen before. This is cool. I want this. And those are the people that usually are really super fans and super into it and become repeat customers and things like that. But it's a very niche type thing versus, I'm going to draw Harley Quinn or something like that. But because of all this, I have struggled to find my audience at comic conventions. And and the people that do fan art is just like, I can see a lot of them just kind of raking it in everything, and it's kind of disheartening to me. It's like, why don't people resonate with my stuff? And again, part of it is because it doesn't have the kind of exposure that a Star Wars or a Harry Potter or something like that has. People already know that. I don't have the luxury of, I can't spend $1 million to market my thing till people understand what it is. But where a fan artist can borrow from all that exposure that's out there that people are familiar with, and use that to market their fan art. So, but I think honestly, I think that gravy train is kind of going to end, because now with AI art, it's just democratized the ability to create artwork. People who couldn't draw before are now going to be able to create fan art. You're going to see a flood of new fan art out there, and I think people that have traditionally done fan art, especially the stuff that's highly derivative, there's still people, like I said, that are putting a really unique spin on something. I think those people might be okay, but if it's just the same old stuff you've seen, I don't see a lot of people paying for that. When if oh, this is cool, it's Deadpool riding a unicorn or something like that. When somebody just at their fingertips has the ability to type in the prompt Deadpool riding a unicorn and have all this artwork spit out, why would they go and purchase that when they can just create that themselves? So I think some way, in my opinion, this is going to be a good thing. I think first you're going to get just a flood of all of this digital artwork at comic conventions, but I think people are going to get fatigued with that. There's going to just be so much of it that they're going to long for something different, something new that they haven't seen before. And that's where, people that are creating something different have sort of the upper hand. And I think people, if you're doing something just derivative, I think you are going to have to adapt and shift to, create something new and innovative. Whereas before, it wasn't necessarily the case. The bottom line is people are going to do what sells. And if somebody who's not an artist can create an AI image of whatever, Harley Quinn, Deadpool, whatever the most popular thing is right now, and spit that out, print it out on their own computer and post it on their wall, they're probably not going to be spending, I could literally see people going to the conventions and seeing something really cool, and it's like, because I've been there before. Like, if I see something like that, I don't know if I wanted to, I could probably draw that myself, So people are going to look at this stuff, and they're instead of buying it, they're going to say, you know what, I can go to my AI and I can print this thing out on my own and hang it on my wall. And so you're going to see people not spending as much money on things that they can't create. But the AI is not, if there's somebody seeing something new that either is in a form that can't be like a physical form, people that are maybe taking whatever their art creations, even if it's fan art, and putting it on like a product or something that the AI can't necessarily replicate that easy. It would take somebody some time to actually put that on, even if it's a t-shirt or whatever, or a wood carving or something like that. That might be a way fan artists can kind of shift and do something different that the average person can't. Or if it's presented on like one of these metal, I've seen a lot of, and I have seen people upping their game as far as what they're doing. And maybe it's a result of this. Maybe they've seen the writing on the wall before I have. But, I see all these metal prints, and I see people upping their game about what they're putting their fan art on. But I still think people are going to look at that stuff and like, I can make that myself, and everyone, and it's going to be another level, because before, when it was a person that could actually draw and say, well, I could draw that myself, so why would I buy it? People that like don't have really any artistic talent can now go ahead and like type something in, print it out, hang it up. So why would they purchase that from you? So, but I think if they see something that they haven't seen before that's super original, they're not even going to know how to type that prompt in, because it's not going to register with the AI art generators. So anyway, that's kind of my opinion, and I think comic conventions are going to change. I think hopefully, you're, like I said in the beginning, you're going to see a lot more your really basic artwork. And some of this stuff, some of the stuff that the AI generates is incredible. And you're going to see people selling that kind of stuff, and it will sell in the beginning, but I think eventually people are going to like shift, and they're just going to get fatigued from all this stuff, and they're going to want something that AI art isn't really trained to create. Eventually, if you do something that becomes popular enough, then the AI will learn it, and then you'll be back in the same position you were before. But as artists, we have to adapt. And I think a lot of artists, there's this whole starving artist thing. And I think a lot of that is because people aren't willing to adapt or learn new things. It's still, I just still hear so much talk about commissions. Like, that's the only way to make art, money at artwork, is somebody pays you to do something, you do it, you give it to them, and that's it. There are so many other ways, but you have to open your eyes to those ways on how to be a professional artist, how to make a living doing this. And it's not just strictly limiting yourself to just somebody commissions me to do something, I do it, and you get it, and then that's the end. You've got to broaden your scope on what is possible, because everything you see in the world is created by artists. Now some of that is going to be created by, artificial intelligence, but there's still somebody behind that. But it's not just the artwork itself, it's the creativity behind that, on where can we take this, what can we do with this, and that's how you are able to make a living as an artist. So anyway, that's my prediction of what's going to happen with comic conventions, specifically fan artists and that type of thing. But I know a lot of people are going to have some opinions on this, so let me know. I know a lot of people out there do fan art and they don't like it when you say that it's not legal, which it isn't, but but I think that's going to change, and I think you can fight me on that or whatever, but I think eventually you can get ahead of that, or you can keep going down that road. But because now that everyone has the ability to create this kind of stuff, unfortunately your stuff's not going to be that special, especially when it's something very derivative, if that's the kind of stuff you're doing. So I would say maybe think about pivoting to something different. Again, this is all my opinion. I want to know your opinion. Let me know in the comment section, and I will talk to you guys later. That is all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Serkworks on social media, and now you can support the work that I do on Patreon. Do you like making comics? Then go to Serkworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all, it's totally free.